Now, we all know cocaine is a rich man's drug. Now, what's better than a clientele of the upscale party culture? Having a product served in bars, clubs, hip-hop events, NBA games, NFL games. Sounds pretty safe, right? It's safe until you associate yourself with the wrong people. Now, only in Philly, where a white girl can be the plug. Tonight, we're going to talk about Rian Fowl, aka White Girl Ryan, aka the White Girl. Now, she was a party promoter and business partner with the owner of Plush Nightclub. Now, I'm old enough to know what Plush Nightclub was, but anyway, she rubbed shoulders with guys like Allen Iverson, The Roots, Rockefeller, Rasheed Wallace, and many more. Now, it was said that she did $500,000 coke deals on a regular, VIP sections filled with bottles, parties in the skybox of the NFL and NBA games, parties in New York for the weekend, helicopters to AC. Behind all of that, there's always someone watching, whether it's the feds or someone that wants what you got. Now, Timothy Gilmore, a long-distance truck driver from Ohio, he would ship bricks from Texas to Philly. And every time I hear about Texas and drugs, I automatically assume the connectors from Mexico. But anyway, he would meet with Ryan and a guy named Leon Woodard in Ryan's 7th floor apartment. Now, Leon Woodard was like a protege to Ryan. She tried to teach him the party planning, the promotions, the ins and out of the nightlife scene. And she would show him that it's more to life than just the streets. She even got him a job at Bluezette's, which was an upscale restaurant in Old City. Now, when Gilmore would come to the city, they would do business. Gilmore would deliver the black duffel bag full of bricks to Ryan's apartment, and the three of them, Ryan, Gilmore, and Woodard, would discuss where, what, and who. Now, Ryan trusted Woodard enough that he could put together deals himself, as long as he didn't deal with a certain individual she told him not to deal with. Now, you had a lot of guys that tried to get next to her, but their reputation alone of robberies was a big deal breaker when it came to her business. So after doing business, they would all head out later that night to party, easily spending $15K in Onyx strip club. So that tells you right there how much money they was holding. Like, money wasn't a problem. Now, Woodard would set up a deal with a man named Kevin Starks and would arrange a shipment from Texas. June 27th, 2009, Gilmore would arrive with Edward Emerson, which would become a witness sometime later down the line. Now, they should have did more of a background check on Kevin Starks, because later Woodard would find out that Starks had connections with one of the people Ryan told him not to deal with. But of course, it was too late. 29-year-old Katoya Jones was promised a huge payout to let gunman Donnell Murchison inside the building. She was a neighbor of Ryan's, and of course, staying in an upscale apartment, you will have to be let in if you don't stay there. Now, as Ryan and Timothy enters the apartment hallway, 3 gunmen would approach them with a backup shooter waiting down the hall. Now, with them being held at gunpoint, Timothy Gilmore attempted to reach for the gun of one of the men, which was Antonio Wright. Gilmore would try to run, but Wright would gun him down right on the spot. Edward Daniels, which was one of the trigger men, shoots Rian Thal in the head. The men flee the scene, leaving the building and hop into a white van, which Will Hook would be waiting. Now, the funny thing is, the group of men left behind $100,000 in cash and 4 keys. So hearing that makes me wonder, if that was the amount of money left behind, then how much did they get away with? Because there's no way they went there and did all of that to leave with nothing. Now, if that's the case, if that's what really happened, that's just a sad case. They left there with nothing but a murder case. Now, Edward Emerson, the guy that rode up there with Timothy Gilmore, wasn't harmed because they didn't see him. He testified that he watched from a peephole. He even said that he didn't know Timothy Gilmore had a truck full of keys, but on the surveillance camera, he was spotted walking around the bodies with a duffel bag in his hand. Will Hook will be labeled as the mastermind behind the robbery. The night before, he would try to break into one of the apartments that he thought was Ryan's along with Robert Keefe, but the apartment was empty. So this man was dedicated. And it all comes down to, how did he find out the information about the shipment? How did word get out about the shipment delivery date and meeting? So, of course, someone was on the inside. Donnell Murchison claimed that Ryan set the whole thing up herself, and she would profit by getting a kickback either in cash or in some stolen drugs. But it just doesn't make sense, because if that was the case, she would have just gave them the keys and murder wouldn't have been involved. Edward Emerson said that he thinks Leon Woodard had something to do with it, but who knows? Now, Murchison pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Hook, Daniels, and Wright were also sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, the guy named Langdon Scott pleaded guilty to robbery, burglary, and conspiracy charges and did 4 years. He was caught on camera heading into Ryan's apartment an hour before the shooting happened, carrying a black bag. It was alleged that he backed out of the robbery last minute. Katoya Jones pleaded guilty in her role and got a break with only 2.5 years of prison time served and probation. Robert Keefe will end up getting 6 to 12 years for breaking into the wrong apartment. So what we have here is just a bunch of L's. We heard plenty of stories similar to this. With the status she had, she should have had armed bodyguards with her. I mean, she had the money, and being in the club scene, I'm pretty sure she knew bouncers that could use extra money on the side, but that's just me. Shout out to all my upper echelon members, I see y'all. Shout out to my supporters. We're almost a year in creating content. Still learning though, and it can be mentally draining, especially dropping consistently for like 4 months straight. And I keep telling myself I'm gonna take a week off, but I don't. But when I decide to, I'll give you guys a week heads up. Plus, that will give you guys time to catch up on my other videos y'all miss. Cause I'm sure y'all ain't see all of them. But enjoy the rest of y'all week. Like the video, holla at me in the comments. I'm going.